Christmas the world over is usually celebrated with interactions between friends and family. This year, however, it has been marked amidst a pandemic, and citizens are therefore expected to mark the birth of Jesus Christ in line with the COVID-19 protocols. We have a cleric to discuss these as Panorama comes away from NTA Kaduna Network Center. My name is Abdullah Mohammed. Don't go away. President Muhammadu Buhari enjoins Christians and Nigerians in general to appropriate the hope that comes with Christmas and reinvest trust in government's determination and unwavering commitment to restore peace, security, prosperity to the country. In felicitating with Christians on the occasion of this year's Christmas, President Buhari urged Nigerians to be optimistic and hopeful that the country will overcome the existing challenges and rise in stature and status. He said the Christmas session presents joy, peace, hope, love, goodwill, and imminent salvation, which Jesus Christ's advent symbolizes and very much needed in the country at this time. He reminded Nigerians the current efforts by the federal government to uplift the lives of citizens and promised that government will continue to provide the much needed support within available resources to improve security in the country. Francis, in his Christmas message, called for nations to share COVID-19 vaccines, saying the walls of nationalism could be built to stop the pandemic that knows no borders. Onange Fineface has details of this report.
The fraternity grounded in genuine love, making it possible for me to encounter...
In a sign of the times, Pope Francis delivered his traditional message virtually from a lectern inside the Vatican instead of from the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica before tens of thousands.
In the face of a challenge that knows no borders, we cannot erect walls. All of us are in the same boat. Every other person is my brother or my sister. In everyone I see reflected the face of God. And in those who suffer, I see the Lord pleading for help. I see him in the sick, the poor, the unemployed and marginalized, the migrant and the refugee, all of us brothers and sisters.
The pandemic and its social and economic effects dominated the message in which Pope Francis called for global unity and help for nations suffering from conflicts and humanitarian crisis.
Political and government leaders, a spirit of international cooperation, starting with healthcare, so that all will be ensured access to vaccines and treatment. May the Child of Bethlehem help us, then, to be generous, supportive, and helpful, especially towards those who are vulnerable. The sick, those unemployed, or experiencing hardship due to the economic effects of the pandemic, and women who have suffered domestic violence during these months of lockdown.
He said at this moment in history, marked by the ecological crisis and grave economic and social imbalances, only worsened by the coronavirus pandemic, it is all the more important for nations of the world to exhibit brotherly care for each other. Onange Fineface, NTA News.
Thanks, Onange, there with that message from the Pope. And defense matters now. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, has commended troops for their gallantry in the fight against identified threats and loyalty to the constituted authority. The Army Chief's commendation is contained in a special Christmas message delivered to officers and soldiers by the Chief of Training and Operations, Major General Nuhu Angbazo, at the military chapel in the Nigerian Army Special Forces School, Buniadi, Yobe State. Let's now join defense correspondent Ismail Musa with details of that story.
These are troops of Operation Lafia Dole in a special church service marking the 2020 Christmas celebration.
I urge you not to relent in your efforts. Let me at this point pay tribute to our departed heroes who paid the supreme sacrifice in the service of our fatherland.
From the church service, characterized by thanksgiving for God's continuous protection and provision. Officers and soldiers moved to the field for a larger celebration, having lunch with troops at the theater of war during festive period. It's a long-standing tradition of the army chief that must be fulfilled. Despite the known regimentation in the military, Army principal staff officers, including Lieutenant General Buratai, are the ones serving food to soldiers as a mark of honor.
Well, I commend your efforts. I want to urge you not to rest on your oars, because the existing and even emerging security threats are potent, and we must continue to be ahead of them.
The military and the sister security agencies have done well to sustain the peaceful coexistence of Nigerians.
While commending the gallantry of troops of Operation Lafia Dole, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai, notes that enhanced welfare package has been put in place for troops and the families of the fallen heroes. From the Nigerian Army School of Special Forces in Buniyadi, Yobe State, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar says the internal security challenges facing the country presently is a task that must be addressed at all cost. The Chief of Air Staff stated this during the Christmas luncheon with troops of the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole in Maiduguri, Borno State. Abubakar Muhammad Musa reports.
It is entirely different from the atmosphere of gunshots, airstrikes, and other forms of offensive usually being experienced at the battlefield, but an opportunity for troops on the front line to have a feeling of the season towards boosting their morale for optimum performance in the theater. The Chief of Air Staff Christmas luncheon, observed in line with COVID-19 safety protocols, was indeed an avenue to review major successes recorded so far in the theater, especially the ongoing onslaught against insurgency, as well as the way forward, with a strong message to soldiers to end terrorism and other forms of criminality at all costs. Air Task Force Commander Operation Lafia Dole, Air Commodore Abubakar Abdul Qadir, attributed the achievements the Nigerian Air Force has continued to record to the overwhelming support being extended by the Chief of Air Staff, saying the acquisition of new platforms for airmen and women recently will further sustain the winning momentum. The role of Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, Borno State Governor Babagana Umar Zulum, as well as the Senate and House of Representatives Committee on the Nigerian Air Force in strengthening internal security was also acknowledged.
We shall not relent nor rest on our oars until we ensure the security of lives and properties of Nigerians are guaranteed.
The Chief of Air Staff Christmas Luncheon has been organized since 2015 under the leadership of the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar. In Maiduguri, Abubakar Muhammad Musa, NTA News.
Security matters now focusing on health. Christian clerics in Kaduna have cautioned Nigerians on the need to observe precautionary measures against the dreaded coronavirus. This is coming on the heels of Christmas celebration amidst the second wave of COVID-19. Let's join Ahmed Umar Kudan for a report on this.
Christmas is a period of sober reflection which commemorates the birth of Jesus Christ, who lived and died for mankind.
He came to this world that he may redeem us from the powers of darkness.
This year's celebration has its peculiar challenges as Christians observe it in the wake of the second wave of COVID-19, occasioned by increased cases of coronavirus daily, which poses serious threat to worshippers in various churches in Kaduna metropolis. As part of measures to curtail the spread of COVID-19, safety protocols have been put in place by churches. Physical distancing among worshippers, hand washing points, body temperature checks, and wearing of face masks are some of the ad hoc measures adopted.
Even with the vaccines that are available, even if the vaccines were able to go around, which is not possible in the shortest possible time, that the protocols in place, social distancing, wearing a mask, the basic hygiene of washing our hands with running water, and all these things, they matter a lot. And therefore, they are our best protection. All those crowded ceremonies, parties and others, we are appealing to people, don't even do it. In the first place, it's not even Christmas. When you say party is not Christmas. Christmas is not about party. People bring in party because it's holiday. So if it has come at a time that there is a pandemic, let's show that we understand and stay at home.
As Christians in Kaduna continue to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, they remain prayerful, seeking God's intervention to bring the situation under control so that next year's Christmas celebration will be devoid of COVID-19 or any other pandemic. In Kaduna, Ahmad Umar Kudan, NTA News.
Thank you, Ahmad Umar Kudan there. And we're going to discuss that further here in the studio. I have with me Pastor Johanna Buru. Let's start by looking at the fact that today is Boxing Day, and then we know usually people will go to see their family, they bring gift, food, a lot of things, interaction, and so on and so forth. But this time around, we're in a different circumstance. What's you going to say to people celebrating Christmas there on Boxing Day?
First and foremost, it is really a season that Christians are in a fix because of this pandemic. Unfortunately, it lasted to the Christmas season with the tough time that people are passing through, most especially economically, issue of insecurity. And the pattern of celebration that Christmas has been celebrating is quite different from this time around.
Yes.
And focusing on the issue of this pandemic, the COVID-19, is something that has affected a lot of things that even the church has suffered. The celebration has suffered. Like the president has spoken, the bishop and the reverend. It is true, this is a season that we celebrate Christ, but it must not be the way that we want it, and not the usual way we've been doing. Possibly God wants us to learn a lesson at this time because of this pandemic. And the issue of pandemic is not foreign in the Bible. I'm trying to encourage Christians to follow everything that medical personnel or professionals has maybe entailed or set it aside for them to follow.
Yes.
And if you're not going to go through those processes, the same process in the Bible, because the Bible made it very clean, any pandemic like that, there should be issue of purity, washing your hand, including your clothes, and it reach a level that you should go for isolation if that pandemic is one. It is a kind of one that will spread or affect other people.
Yes.
It's infectious. That is in Leviticus chapter 13. And other passages have said that. So it's not, if those who claim to be Christian or are really Christian, they should know these things are there. By applying what the Bible says, can solve the problem, even without following the medical, because what the medical are doing is biblical. So we have every reason to follow it bit by bit. Being today Boxing Day, like the name implies, when gifts are being passed through, giving out on Christmas Day, friends, lovers, and well-wishers. What next to do is that the following day, being Boxing Day, is set aside just to unbox the packages given to you. So as they're doing that, I think they should have a time better to rest today. Avoid all other social gathering. Make sure that they do the needful in preventing coronavirus as professionals might have advised us to do. And live in peace and harmony with one another. Try in doing the right thing. Obey the laws of preventive measures and do the right thing. You're not only helping yourself, not only your family, not your community, you're also helping the government, and things are going to be well. May we know that these things that government are doing, they're not trying to suppress us.
Yes.
Rather, they are trying to help us as citizens. It's the role of the government to do all these things by enlightening the general public. And the church itself is a center of education where people are properly informed. People are taught on certain things, even on health issues. The Bible contains all of them. So I want them to use this opportunity to observe every rule and regulation stipulated, whether from the biblical or from the medical perspective, so that we'll get rid of this dreaded COVID-19.
I also, Pastor, want you to talk to some people might have this, maybe try to be obstinate, say this is something that they have been doing over the years. Why won't they do it now?
Yeah. To me, if you insist on that, I'm seeing that more of arrogancy.
Okay.
Because without you being healthy, active, and alive, all celebrations are invalid. Therefore, don't insist on what will affect you and affect others.
Yes.
Remember, you should be your brother's keeper in every situation, in every circumstance, whether physical or spiritually. If you have reason to protect your brother, protect him. Is it medically? Is it physically? Is it spiritually? Or by abiding with the law? But you can't say because you've been celebrating Christmas or Boxing Day, you go there, you party, you celebrate this, you visit so and so person. If you are not alive, what about those who have died because of COVID-19? So you only have the opportunity to prevent it and to live to a life, to expected end. But when you go the contrary, you violate government law, and every authority is God's authority. You obey the law of the land, you're obeying God's law. So do the needful to save the country and save the situation that we found ourselves.
Thank you very much, Pastor, for coming to the studios this afternoon.
Thank you too.
Wish you Merry Christmas.
Same to you, sir.
Yes. Moving on now. Let's take a short break. We'll be back shortly. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has, on the 25th of December 2020, confirmed 712 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. The breakdown by the center indicates that Lagos has the highest figure of 388 new cases, followed by FCT with 77, Kwara 39, Katsina 35, and Bauchi with 33 new cases. 22 new cases were recorded in Plateau. Ogun has 18, Akwa Ibom 16, Delta 13, while Kaduna and Osun have 12 new cases each. Yobe recorded 11 new cases, Sokoto 10, Kebbi 8, Enugu 6, Edo 5, Ondo 3, Niger 2, while Kano and Oyo State recorded 1 new cases each. As at 25th December 2020, Nigeria has 82,747 confirmed cases of coronavirus, with 70,239 patients discharged, while 1,246 deaths were recorded. Still health matters. Now, the Nigeria Medical Association FCT chapter has called on the general public to adhere to the coronavirus preventive guidelines and urged government to play its role in the battle against the virus, as not less than 20 doctors have been lost to COVID-19 in the last 1 week. Chairman of the association, Dr. Enema Amudu, stressed this while briefing members of the press in Abuja. Hakimat Aliu reports.
A second wave of coronavirus, which is even more catastrophic. Acknowledging this, Dr. Emena Amodu, Chairman Nigerian Medical Association FCT chapter, expresses disappointment that people still go about disregarding the protocols.
For those of us in the health sector, we've lost quite a number of colleagues in the last 1 week alone. I'm here to solidarize first with the families of our members that have lost loved ones. We want to make it public. We want to shout it from the rooftop that we are with you in this very trying and very grieving moment of sadness over the loss of our colleagues.
While appealing to patients coming into the hospitals to always comply, not to put the health workers at risk, he also used the medium to request that government expedite action towards implementing the new hazard allowance away from the usual 5,000 naira.
We hope that the government in the incoming year will start off the new year with a reviewed hazard allowance But I'm not oblivious of the processes for it to be gazetted and captured in our salaries and wages.
The Nigerian Medical Association assured FCT residents that its members are bound to their oath and combat ready to save lives, either from COVID-19 or any medical emergencies. In Abuja, Hakimat Aliu, NTA News.
Many thanks, Hakimat. They are still focusing on the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. But moving on to Jigawa now, following the resurgence of the coronavirus pandemic in the country, the Jigawa state government has adopted several measures aimed at mitigating the effect of the second wave of the dreaded disease. Mansur Aliyu has sent reports on the situation in the state, which is currently having 47 active cases and 1 fatality, examining measures put in place against further escalation of the virus. His report.
Part of the measures adopted as announced by Governor Muhammad Badru Abubakar is that of directing workers on grade level 12 downward to stay away from offices and work from home, which is in line with Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 advice. Added to this is ensuring the full observance of the NCDC's protocols of social distancing, as well as wearing of face masks in all public places. The government also directed the ban of public activities, which exceeds 50 people. Governor Badaru further directed the reopening of all state isolation centers.
Our task force and incident management team remain active.
In many public places visited, NTA News observed that people still observed and abide by the PTF's guidelines, as many people were seen wearing face masks, and many are avoiding crowded places, even with the payment of December salaries. Most of the ATM points, people observe the social distancing policy without being forced to do so. Commercial motorbike operators were also not left out. A visit to the busiest commercial motor park in Dutse shows that throughout the 4 consecutive months, the state records 0 cases. There is the spirit of adherence to such safety protocols, as there is still a provision for hand-washing facility.
Actually, people are contributing. I have seen even the distance, what do you call it, social distance with the people, and not overloading and other things.
Medical experts believe that if public continue to imbibe this spirit of strict adherence to health personnel's advice on the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic, no doubt the second wave of the virus will surely be contained. In Dutse, Mansur Aliyu Hassan, NTA News.
From Jigawa, we go to Katsina, but this time around shifting our focus to agriculture. To control the menace of cooler beds and other pest-destroying farm produce, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has commenced aerial spray of pesticides on irrigation farms in Katsina. Awal Halil reports that the exercise covering over 4,000 hectares of irrigation farms is to be conducted within the next 7 days.
For years, wet and dry season farmers in Katsina are being faced with the challenges of koala beds, which destroy hectares of farm produce, causing losses to farmers in the state. It is against this background that the Federal Ministry of Agriculture intervenes every year with the aerial spray of pesticides to protect farm produce from being destroyed by koala beds.
There was a letter that they received from DSS. This is a report of invasion of this koala beds in this our state here.
The field officer in charge of Divisional Pest Control under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Aminu Yusuf Yabo, said the measures were taken in anticipation of the arrival of koala beds to the state. Some of the beneficiaries of the exercise commended federal government for the timely intervention, which will go a long way in boosting food production in the country.
We appreciate the federal government's intervention, as the spray will prevent loss in agricultural products.
The Desk Officer, Pest Control, Katsina State Ministry of Agriculture, Mustafa Habib, said the state is benefiting every year from this gesture from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. In Katsina, Awal Halliru, NTA News.
Thank you, Awal. It's now time to link up with Sports Dex to find out what is going on in that sector.
Welcome to Sports Update. I'm Bade Adeleye. It's a